Welcome to Gay Men Going Deeper, a podcast by the Gay Men's Brotherhood that showcases raw and real conversations about personal development, mental health, and sexuality from an unapologetically gay perspective. I am your host, Matt Lansadell, and joining me today is Michael Diorio. Okay, today we are talking about how to find more joy in your life. And we're going to be exploring questions like what brings you joy and what does joy feel like for you? How do you personally want to deepen your own relationship with joy in the next chapter of your life? And what advice do you have for people who want to find more joy in their life? What we want you to get out of today's episode is just a moment to slow down and reflect on your relationship with joy. What does joy feel like for you? What brings you joy? And how can you invite more joy into your life? So we want you to just put everything into perspective and see, do you have joy in your life? Do you want more joy in your life? And if so, how can you make that happen? So Michael and I are going to be talking about ways that we bring joy into our lives and maybe some of the barriers that we have to joy and hopefully give you guys some ideas on how you can bring more joy into your life. If you're new here, please subscribe to the channel on YouTube. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, please subscribe and leave us a review, which helps us get into the ears of the people who need us. And just remember that this podcast and YouTube channel are listener and viewer supported. So if you enjoy what we're creating, you can support us by making a donation to the show using the link in the show notes or tapping the thanks button on YouTube. You can also subscribe to the early access option on Apple Podcast and gain early access to episodes. All your support does help us continuing to make great content for you and supporting our community. So we do thank you in advance for that. All right. This episode was titled How to Find More Joy in Your Life for a Reason. I believe that joy is both found, we can find joy in our life. It can come to us from people, it can come unexpectedly. But we also, I think, for the most part, are in charge of our own joy by creating, right? So this episode could be titled "How to Find More Joy in Your Life" or "How to Create More Joy in Your Life." Both are important. So we want to explore ways that we can bring more joy into our life, create more joy into our life. And from my perspective, that is going to be by focusing on the things that bring you joy. We're living in a world right now where there's a lot of like sorrow, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of hatred, there's a lot of division. There's every reason to not feel joy. Right. And I think it's important to have conversations like these that can recenter us and start getting us to focus our attention on things that are working in our lives as opposed to what's not working or things that are, acts of kindness versus acts of hatred. Where are we drawing our attention to that's going to allow us to cultivate more joy in our life? So, and I also look at joy as it's less about chasing something outside yourself, and it's more about cultivating a way of being within yourself, right? Joy, we can be joyful, we can be at peace in the most chaotic environment, right? That's the inner work of finding joy. So this is an inside job and an outside job, right? They're both equally important because we want to allow the world to have an impact on us. We want to allow people to love us so it can bring us joy. So it does come from outside of us as well. But when we are in a place of receptivity within ourselves to receive love and receive joy, then it makes it so we can cultivate it within ourselves as well. So just something to put into perspective. So I'm curious, Michael, what brings you joy and what does joy feel like for you?
Love it. I love this topic, and I can't believe we haven't talked about this in what 250 some odd episodes. So it's definitely
Yeah.
time for it. Great intro.
Mhm.
I think I want to start talking about what I used to or what joy isn't,
Okay.
and that'll help because that's how it kind
Yeah.
of did in my brain. So I used to conflate joy, and I still do sometimes, joy with pleasure. And to
Mhm.
me, I have to separate those things out because they're different things and they have different impacts. They're similar but different. So I used to, as you had so wonderfully said, chase pleasure, and I think so many of us do, and call it joy. I think that was joy.
Yeah.
So back in those days, that was sex and getting drunk and partying and having a good time, and all that good stuff, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with it.
Mhm.
But those were more like quick dopamine hits.
Yeah.
that maybe felt joyous in the moment, but it was really just chasing pleasure because it never really lasted, and it was always I was always left feeling like I need more, and it wasn't like a fulfilling, nourishing sense of joy. It was
Yeah.
this kind of like yeah, like a quick hit, like a dopamine hit of pleasure. Um, so that's not what I consider joy. I can find little aspects of pleasure in those things, but it's not the same. One scratches an itch, kind of feels like a sugar high, like give me this thing I want it, and it feels good to get it, and then it's gone.
Yeah.
So let me start that. Joy, then, to answer your question, to me these days, the way I define joy separately from pleasure is that it's a lot more nourishing and
Mm.
fulfilling and lasting. Not in that it needs to be this big, grandiose thing. It really doesn't. It could be the most simple, ordinary thing. It often is, to be honest.
Yeah.
And it's usually, even if it is something simple, it's tied to something meaningful. So, for example, if I go for a morning walk, which I like to do when the weather and time allows me to, it's the most simple thing. I would just walk outside, I go a few blocks down the street, and I come back. But the neighborhood I really enjoy. There's also trees. There's people walking their dogs, and it's just very lovely. People say hello, like it's just very nice. And so that's kind of tied to a deeper meaning for me when I think about it, of like community and feeling safe and nature and the trees and people looking at people's gardens. Like
Hmm.
it's the simple thing, but there's something tied to it that's more. It's tied to a deeper core value, shall we call it that? And it lingers longer. Like I go for
Yeah.
that walk in the morning, and I feel like pretty set up for my day because I'm going to have a busy day or whatever's going to happen is going to happen in my workday. But that walk would have grounded me and kind of given me a good base to go by.
Yeah.
So if I could use an analogy, one would be like pleasure to me is like a sexy one night stand with a guy that you think is hot. That's
Hmm.
good and lovely, but then he walks out the door. Versus joy for me would be spending quality time with someone I truly love.
Mm.
For me, it's the quality time because quality time is my love language. So it doesn't even have to
Yeah.
be about the sex. It's really just spending that time with somebody, and that's the difference. So one is fun and good, and it's great, and that lasts whatever long lasts for. But one, it really is more nourishing. So that's how I
Yeah.
would describe it feeling like, what it feels like for me, and what brings me joy. Morning coffee, morning walk. I'm thinking about my day already today. Looking outside and seeing green. I love just seeing green and trees and just being around nature.
Yeah.
Sun on my face. The warm sun on my face feels lovely. People bring me joy. My friends bring me joy. Seeing people laugh brings me joy. Seeing people smile brings me joy. I
Hmm.
love that, especially people I love. But just in general, I love like walking down the street and seeing people hold hands or just in love, having a good time. That really brings me joy, even though it's their moment. But I sense joy from that.
Yeah.
Those are some of the easy ones, or like the ordinary things that I would say bring me joy.
Yeah. I like that. I never thought about that for myself, but bringing other people joy or seeing other people have joy can bring you joy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. For me,
Yeah.
at least. Yeah. Other
Yeah.
times, if I'm in the wrong mood, other people's joy is like, ugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how I know what state I'm in.
Yeah. Yeah. When you're in a day where you just feel like you don't want to be single and you want
Yeah,
a relationship and you see all these happy couples
yeah.
around and it's like, ugh.
Fuck you. Don't be so happy in front of me. Yeah, that's my work though. That's for sure my work too.
Yeah. Is happiness and joy the same thing for you or are they different?
They're similar. I kind of use them interchangeably. I think if we're talking about moments of joy, they create a happy life overall. Knowing, of course, that both of these things are not permanent. You can
Hmm.
feel joy in a moment and then it can turn into something else. And then you can find it back. These are all emotional states that just come from, they come and go. But overall, if I look at a life, I think happiness is more of a long-term state.
Hmm.
Whereas I think joy comes in moments and pleasure comes in tiny moments. Pleasure is these tiny little moments. Joy is a
Yeah.
bit more lasting, and happiness is a greater, more grounded inner sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that you use the word pleasure because that never came up at all in my when I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about today. And it's something I want more of in my life. I want more
Pleasure,
pleasure.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think when at least for me, when I think about pleasure, my mind immediately goes to like sex and orgasms and sexual pleasure, but
yeah,
there's pleasure all around us, right? I take pleasure in nature. I take pleasure in the sweet nectar of life, like the
yeah,
tastes of sweetness and ice cream, and
yeah,
there's so much opportunity for us to experience pleasure, right?
yeah,
Um, and that can lead to joy. But I do agree with you that oftentimes pleasure, when we're confusing it with joy, it can lead to compulsion or addiction. And I
yeah,
do think that when we start moving towards finding joy, it's it's more drawn out as opposed to these like hits, right? It's like a
Yeah,
drawn out experience of, and it's tends to be like you said, more simple. Um, yeah,
it lingers. That's what I like.
it
It lingers.
lingers.
Whereas the pleasure for me, it hits and then it's gone.
Yeah,
There's a high and then a what's the opposite of a high?
a low.
Yeah. Thank you. It's been a while since we've done
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
yeah.
there's a high and then a drop. Whereas I think with joy for me, it lingers longer and it lasts a little bit longer. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I like that, and I can actually cultivate joy in a moment by thinking about um, the things that bring me joy, but I can't do that with pleasure. I can't create, when I think about the ice cream I had, whatever, a few weeks ago, I can't create pleasure in my body really, right?
Mhm.
Whereas if I have a memory of a joyful thing that I had and it brought up joy in my body, I can sit here and recall that memory and I can start to feel the lingering of joy in my body, right?
So what are those things that bring you joy?
Oh God. So it's funny because when I was doing my research for this, I was going through just a bunch of things, and I was going through an old note in my phone. I was going through my notes in my phone, and unrelated to this, and I saw a note in my phone of what brings me joy, and I was like, "Oh, this is so perfect timing."
Yeah.
And I made a list, an exhaustive list. There's like 100 things on this list of things that bring me joy, and it's like a lot of the things on the list are like really small things, like family and things like that. But I'll just read a few off them. So being comfortable. Being
Mhm.
comfortable brings me joy. I love comfort. I love being in comfortable clothes. I love being comfortable with my friends. I love being comfortable at home. I love being comfortable in the solitude of my own uh, comfort or my own company, right? Like solitude for me is very, very comfortable and it brings me joy. Um, Google Maps brings me joy. I'm always researching and I love my phone. My phone brings me
Yeah.
joy because, and especially if I'm using it in a healthy way, like Google Maps, I love researching things. I love like I'm a information hoarder. I love knowledge.
Yeah.
So learning brings me joy. Um, Sharing where I'm from brings me joy, right? Like um, being in the mountains,
Yes.
playing hockey on the outdoor rinks, flirting. The list is exhaustive. There's so many things that bring me joy. Um, but I think the biggest thing for me when it comes to joy, because um, a lot of the things that I just listed, they're things that we can do. They're things that we can, um, like, they're actions we can take to feel joy, right? And I think that's really a big piece of joy. But I do think that for me, sometimes I can get caught up in attachment of those things where I'm searching for joy. I'm
Mm.
trying to find it. I'm trying to make everything joyful. And I think that tells me that there's something missing in this moment, that I'm not okay just to be in this moment if I'm constantly searching for happiness, joy, pleasure, these
Yep.
sorts of things. So I do think gratitude is a big piece of what brings me joy. Because I do the same as you. I go on walks every night, and I always focus. The beginning of my walks are gratitude. I focus on three things from the day that went well, and my contribution in making them happen.
Yep.
And that's how I start all my walks. And I find sometimes when I'm in the energy of comparison, I can easily get caught up in thinking about the things that I don't have, and that sucks the joy out of things very, very quickly. So gratitude for me is a big piece. Um, Being of service is a very, very big one for me. This is my life, my dharma. I'm literally walking a dharma of being of service to people, and I think that's probably why I love acquiring knowledge and learning so much, because I feel like I have a dharma of acquire and experience within my reality and then share. That's kind of how my life has always been. So there's something about sharing for me, sharing information, sharing life lessons, sharing wisdom. And that is how I am of service to people, through the information I share, and the connections that I make with people through that sharing, I think is a big piece of it. And then I got a puppy.
Yes.
So I I've had a very interesting summer break. So this is our first episode back from summer break. Michael and I haven't seen each other in almost
Yeah.
3 months.
Yeah. It's been a while.
We truly took a break. and in that time, I got a little puppy. His name is Kootenai. He's a golden retriever, and I've always wanted a golden retriever. And I think I've told the story on this podcast about what happened when I was a kid, and we had to give up our dog, who was a golden retriever. And so this has been a very healing time for me to get this dog, and um, it's very fascinating too because he he's bringing me joy, and it's like um, I've never felt this joy before. Like I'm actually letting this little being in, and
Hmm.
like we trust each other and we have this little relationship. And it's like it just feels very different than any relationship I've ever had in my whole life. Like even with because I've owned cats for most of my life as well, and it's having a dog is very different than having cats.
Yeah.
So I would say animals is a very, very big piece of it, and connection that with humans as well. So that's I would say kind of the biggest thing for me. And then what joy feels like for me, yeah, it's no secret the last like 3 years for me has been I haven't experienced a lot of joy, if I'm being completely honest. I've been going through a lot of grieving and a lot of healing, healing trauma and these sorts of things. So joy's been very scarce in my life. And I ended up going on medication because I was dealing with a lot of depression and things like that. So over the summer holidays, I ended up weaning off my medication, and I felt intuitively it's time, right? It's time I have this little beautiful creature that can, keep my serotonin levels up as well. And for the first time in a long time, I'm actually feeling joy. And I was thinking about this a couple days ago, or yesterday actually. I was walking, and I just have this lightness about me.
Hmm.
And so for me, joy feels light, and I don't remember that feeling. I haven't, it's not a common feeling for me. So it just feels really good, and it feels good to have consistency of mood, right? So for me, joy is about being consistent in having this experience that feels like happiness, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, light, it feels open. It feels like I want to share myself with people. I want to um, let love in. That's a big part of it. So yeah, there's a lot of it's an interesting topic that we're doing this at this time because it's kind of happening for me in my life right now where I'm starting to feel more joy. So it
Yeah.
feels good.
You deserve it.
Yeah, thank you.
And the great thing with pets and even kids, people with kids will say this is like the joy just they don't have to try. It just comes very naturally before at least
Yeah,
with kids before kids get socialized into
yeah,
adults. And for pets, they don't have the same obviously ego and all those socialization we have to deal with. So I think for dogs especially and a retriever, they're so playful
yeah,
and joy filled. So it's a nice reminder to be like, wow, these little creatures find joy in like, anything.
yeah,
But that's not unavailable to us as humans if we so choose. We too
yeah,
could also find joy in the easy things, the ordinary things.
yeah,
Maybe not a squirrel, but like other things,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah,
And it's nice because I'm having to constantly go outside with him like every hour. So I'm outside. I don't bring my phone with me, and it's just him and I, and he's doing his business, and I'm seeing how excited he gets when he finds a stick or something, and his tail
exactly.
starts freaking out,
Yeah,
right? And I'm just like, this is how we are meant to be too. We're
yeah,
meant to be in the moment, present, and simple in the ways that we navigate and find joy. But I think for a lot of us, we've um, really made our lives complex
yeah,
and full of urgency and stress and expectation to achieve and all these things. And I think they're joy suckers.
yeah,
So um, yeah, it is really neat. And the other thing too is that he's when he messes up or does something bad and I have to scold him, like it's like literally 30 seconds and then he's like wagging his tail and
he's
and
back. Yeah,
so like they are so in the moment that they don't hold grudges. They
yeah,
don't right? And I'm like, so I'm learning that it's like, okay, so he's over it. And then I notice how my ego and my system wants to hold on to it and
yeah,
be upset about it, right? But I'm like, no, like I can let it go with the tape and just like stay in the moment with him where we can just have a learning lesson and then move right back into joy if we
yeah.
choose so, right?
Pets are so valuable as teachers for us if we
Yeah,
want to see it that way. They can be very,
yeah.
very valuable.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And my patience level, I didn't know I had the patience that I have. It's been like the first month has been so intense with a puppy, like it's basically like a child, but now he's starting to learn all these behavioral things, and catching on. So it's getting a little easier with each passing day. Yeah. All right. I want to hear from, or we want to hear from you guys on YouTube. Pause, reflect, take a moment, and let us know what brings you joy. What does joy feel like for you? How do you experience it? And drop some comments in the YouTube comment box if you want to share your voice. And we're going to continue these discussions in the Gay Men's Brotherhood sharing circles and our connection circles, where you'll have a chance to share your own experiences. Our sharing circles are larger gatherings where one person shares at a time. Everyone's holding space, listening, learning from that person about their experience. If that feels like too much for you, then you can come to our connection circles, which are hosted by Michael and I, and they're smaller, more intimate, where we put you guys in breakout rooms, and you can discuss the topic at hand with other people in the community that are also seekers and wanting to share and build connection around these topics. So you can go to gaymensbrotherhood.com, check out our event section to RSVP. And if you don't have Facebook, get on our emailing list and we will email you the Zoom link. Everything is in the show notes. Okay, let's maybe talk about a little bit of the future and how you see joy playing a role in the next chapter of your life. So, how do you personally want to deepen your relationship with joy in the next chapter of your life?
I think I'm on the right trajectory. I think the nature of the work we do makes it such that, I'm very aware of my emotions. I'm aware of what causes me to feel a certain way. So I'm aware of what brings me joy. I'm aware of what erodes it. So I think I'm on the right trajectory. Comparing me today to 5, 10, even 20 years ago, I'm definitely trending more joyful. Um, the the hard part for me, I think, is I'm a ambitious, high achiever, recovering perfectionist kind of
Mhm.
person, and I have that work hard, play hard. So it's easy for me to think that joy comes after, like joy comes in the destination. And so what I've been doing is finding the joy along the way, finding the joy in the process, finding the joy on the way there, even regardless of the outcome, even if the outcome is not quite what I want, or even if I don't even make it to the destination, the accomplishment. It's really
Yeah,
learning that the process is where the joy is.
yeah,
And what I've learned is historically, if I haven't learned how to find joy on the way to the destination, when I get to the destination, it's going to be empty for me. I'll be like, okay, I did it, but like, why am I not celebrating? Why can't I find joy here? Why am I not like screaming from the rooftops? And that's
yeah,
because joy is a skill, it's a muscle. And if you don't do it on the way to the destination when you get there, as I've learned, it's just going to be like, okay, well, now what? And then you go on to the
yeah,
next thing. And it's such
yeah,
a shame because you've lost this ability to like stop and breathe and be present and say, this is exciting, this is great, this is amazing, I did it. So that's something that I've learned, and I am doing so much better at finding the joy on the way. That's what I call it. um you know the in-between moments. So for example, if you're someone who goes to the gym and you're trying to like lose weight or trying to achieve a certain physique, don't wait until you achieve the physique to like find the joy. Like even the walk on the way to the gym, if you're listening to music or your favorite podcast, find the joy in that.
yeah,
Or even, the little milestones or the little mini accomplishments, the little moments of gratitude you can have. That for me has been how I want to cultivate more joy
yeah,
in these years, and just paying attention to the things that my body says yes to. And like my nervous system says, oh yeah, like you had talked about comfort there, Matt. I love that.
yeah,
It's like, what are the things that just naturally make me feel comfortable, make me feel good? The people who
yeah,
naturally I just like being in their company. More of that, please. And being very
yes,
intentional and conscious about, is this filling my cup? Is this nourishing me? This person, this place, this thing, this whatever, or is this not?
yeah,
And just listening, because that changes, I think, over time. That changes, I think, as we get
yeah,
older. Those things that give us joy might change, since something that did in the past doesn't anymore. That's certainly been
yeah,
my case. So you got to listen to it, and you got to find it. Now at the same time, I will say I still will love doing the things and accomplishing the stuff. I still am ambitious and a high
yeah,
achiever, and I love all that, but I find more joy when I actually hit those targets. I'm like, yeah,
hmm,
and it feels so much better because I've been practicing it the whole way there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I'm curious for you when it comes to like accomplishment or achievement, what about that brings you joy?
I think for me, it's the I'll give you an example. Like, let's say I have an idea. I love ideas and love creation. I like taking something in my brain that's an idea, and then like a few months later, there it is. Like a men's group, for example, is the most recent one I'm thinking of. I'm like, oh, that
Mhm.
would be a good idea for a men's group. And then like 5 months later, there's like 15 people on my Zoom, and we're doing it. And like, I
Mhm.
just feel so good with that. And I think the joy comes from the creation process. If I let
Yeah.
it, if my perfectionist stays away and my inner
Yeah.
critic stays away, more on that later. Um, if I can find joy in the creation, the creative process, and the fact that like I did this, like I can take an idea and turn it into reality,
Hmm.
like the manifestation, like the magician card in tarot. It's like I can have this thing, and like it just brings me so much joy to create and put something into the world that benefits other people specifically. It's not just about me and my creation. It's something that like I thought that this could benefit people, and now it's benefiting people, and I'm just feeling so grateful. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And we're very similar that way.
Yeah.
We have the same, well, on the pattern, we have that same dharmic thing around. I can't remember what the pattern is, but where work is basically everything.
Yeah, and I mean, I know you love creation as much as I do. We both have those notes. We have our notes of like all these ideas, and we
Yeah.
maybe get to like 10% of them. But
Yeah.
I love that part. That even just idea creation, and when I'm working with people like you, and I'm working with other people who are creatives, does give me joy in a connecting sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm. How do I personally want to deepen my relationship with joy in the next chapter of my life? This is an interesting. I just turned 40. This is exactly where I'm at, and I'm at a really interesting point. So I had a lot to kind of say on this, and uh, geez. So the biggest one is like storytelling. Stories get me into so much trouble because I have stories about what brings me joy,
Mhm.
and my ego holds on to those things. So what ends up happening is I don't let myself be informed by other people or the universe or whatever, to bring me joy, like, and so I can recognize, and I like how you said recognizing it in your body, recognizing it in your nervous system, that right, oh yes, I'm feeling joy right now, as opposed to having to tell the story of joy, experiencing joy through the cerebral part of who we are. It's like, can I actually be more connected to my body
Yeah.
and feel joy when it arises, or feel the pang of something that might bring me closer to something that might bring me joy? Right. A perfect example of this is the stories we tell about who we're attracted to, right? It's a visual thing. I'm attracted to this. This is my type, right? Well, what if someone that might be out of your type could bring you so much pleasure, so much joy, so much attraction, but you're not allowing yourself to be open to this person because you're telling very rigid stories about what brings you joy, right? And I tell that story as, from a personal
Yeah.
experience,
I'm laughing
right?
because I'm like, that sounds like me.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's for me there's an element of letting go,
Mhm.
and getting out of my own way, so I can deepen my relationship to joy. Because if I look at the things that
Yeah.
pull me away from it, it's expectations, or like rigidity, control. These are the things that pull me away from that. So if I can learn how to let go and surrender more, I'm going to be more likely to experience more joy, right?
Yeah.
So that's a piece of it. And with letting go, it's trusting, right? Trust has not been a big part of my vocabulary for the first 40 years of my life. I've been very controlled. I've been very non-trusting. So I do feel like I've healed the parts of me are that weren't trusting, and all these protector parts that were trying to keep me safe. I've integrated a lot of them, and I do think that trust is now becoming something that I can actually see myself doing. Whereas before I couldn't even visualize myself trusting, because I was like no one on this planet is trustworthy. That's how I felt.
Mm.
And I just think now, like I'm learning how to let love in. I'm learning how to put myself out there more, these sorts of things. So I do think that's going to play a big part of it. Forgiveness, therefore, too, again, once I do a lot of healing work, childhood works, like trauma work stuff, forgiveness has become a concept that I can actually also grasp and understand, and actually employ. Because before it was, again, not something that I would be able to do. I would just intellectualize forgiveness, and I would forgive until my next mood came around that I was angry or hateful, and then I would be blaming again. And I think So forgiveness for me has become something I have to feel in my heart, in my body, as an embodied state in order for it to actually be sustainable. So, um, and then off the top of your share, you're talking about productivity and achievement and these sorts of things. And I'm learning right now in my life to prioritize presence over productivity because most of my life I've prioritized productivity over presence. And I've been a high achiever as well. I've been doing more and more and more, burning myself out. And now I'm at a chapter in my life where I want to experience um, more presence, right? And that doesn't mean that I can't achieve, but I
Right.
don't necessarily know if I want to be a high achiever anymore. I think I want to be an achiever, and I want to be somebody who puts his best into something and is not a perfectionist, right? And allows room for imperfection and these sorts of things. And I think I've done enough work on myself to have this spaciousness now. Because it's for me, like and again, having Kootenai's teaching me this, like it's not about how much I can do or how many followers or how much business I can strum up. It's not about that anymore for me. Like I think my 40s are going to be more about um, taking time for myself. My 30s were about everybody else and like how much I can achieve and help people and this and that. And I want my 40s to be about me and uh, and about finding love and about spending time with my dog and doing hikes and right. So I want a work-life balance that I've never really had in my life before, and I do think that that's going to come from being present. And I think through presence, I'll find more joy. Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
What I have a question
Yeah.
for you because I'm 2 years ahead of you in the 40 in the 40 thing. But I noticed the same thing when I turned 40 for whatever reason, whether it was I don't know. But that's when I noticed some of the things that used to give me a lot of joy didn't anymore, and I found started
Yeah.
finding it in other places. What for you have you noticed is an area that you are now finding more joy in or finding more joy with that you haven't in the past? That's like something new that's coming online. Like, oh, I'm finding a lot of joy in this thing.
Family, to be honest, I know that sounds really horrible to even say that, but family, I'm starting to find joy in family now,
Yeah.
whereas before it just felt like something that wasn't bringing me joy. That's, I would say joy in my own myself,
Mm.
just in me, like being with me, my own thoughts, my own feelings. Um, yeah. Um, and my creations, they're bringing me joy. I feel like now I create from a place of joy. I don't create from a place of I have to do this. There's nothing in my business that I do except for this podcast where it's I have to do this, right? Like each week we have to put out an episode on Thursday, right? That's the only have to left in my life. The rest of the things I do it whenever I feel like doing it. So I'm a batch creator. I create in batches and then I post it and I like it that way because then I can continue to create from joy. I don't feel like I have to do it. It's not on my to-do list to do these things.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I'm learning how to reframe things because I don't want my life to be full of obligations, especially because I'm an entrepreneur. Like I want to be able to,
Amen.
I work for myself for that reason. I don't want to be have a bunch of to-do lists and have-tos and things like that. So yeah.
Good answer.
What about you?
When I turned 40, around that time is when I really started finding so much joy in waking up early and being a morning person and going to bed
Oh,
earlier. Not that I do this all the time, but I have, for whatever reason, around that time, I don't know, it's just like getting up early is the fucking best. That's when I started going to the gym in the morning, which you
yeah.
would never catch me at the gym in the
Yeah.
morning, but like anytime before, like unless it was nighttime, I wasn't there. But
Yeah.
now it's like my favorite time to go. I'm like so jazzed to get up, have my coffee, and go to the gym, and then it's done. And
Yeah.
like who am I? Even my friends are like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" Like, you just
Yeah.
changed. So now I've become very much a morning person, and really, and even enjoy going to bed early. Like, there's literally for me, if it's like a Saturday and I go to bed at 11, I'm very happy. There's
Yeah.
so much joy in that. Now, does
Yeah.
that happen all the time? No. Sometimes I'm out until 3, 4 in the morning. But before I would have been like, oh my God, something's wrong. Ah, panic, panic. But now
Yeah.
it's like, oh, blessing. I get to go to bed early today.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
kind of hope
moving.
that happens to me because I'm not a morning person. I don't like mornings.
Yeah.
I once I get going, I'm fine, but I definitely am a night person. I like being up at night and
Yeah.
um,
Maybe.
something that brings me joy that I started doing in the last few years is napping.
Mm.
It's been such a beautiful thing. Like just rest. Rest brings me joy,
Yeah.
right? Just not having to do a bunch of shit. Like the last few years of my life has been so nice because I've created space for myself. And I didn't do it because I wanted to do it. I did it because I had to do it. But that's the universe working its magic because and now I've learned rest. I can actually nap. Before I was so high strung I couldn't nap, right? So my nervous
Yeah.
system is actually settling and I'm learning how to slow down. And I do think from a slowed down state is where we feel joy, where we
Yeah.
feel pleasure
Totally.
and love and these things. We have to, if we're going too fast, we're bypassing the subtleties of life that bring us joy, right? So
100%. You got to be present. You can't be so far into the future. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. All right. Yeah, if you want to learn more about what can bring you joy, and what might be blocking you from joy. We have our coaching collection. So I know for a lot of people, shame is a big thing that can block our joy. And we have in our coaching collection, we have our Healing Your Shame course. Um, Relationships can bring joy. So learning how to build better relationships is another one of our courses in our coaching collection. And we also have 45 other premium personal development coaching videos for you that can help you get closer to peace and love and joy and the things that a lot of us are seeking to experience more of in our lives. Okay, so now we'll put our coach hats on. So I'm curious, what advice do you have for people who want to find more joy in their life?
I have three here, but let's go back to the one we just said. Be
Yeah,
present. I think that for any of these three to work, you need to be present. So I would say slow down, especially if you're someone like me who can be a little bit fast and a little bit into the future. It
yeah,
really helps to slow things down. Otherwise, like I said, you won't recognize it if it's right in front of you.
yeah,
So the first thing is to train your brain to recognize that, like Matt had said in the beginning, joy is something you can find or something you can cultivate within yourself.
yeah,
And if you're going to find it, you got to be open to it. You got to be looking for it. You got to be able to see it. For a lot of people, the joy is right there, smack in front of them, and they just blind.
hmm,
So training your brain, practice noticing what's already there. You do not need to spend thousands of dollars to go on an exotic vacation to find joy. It's right in your
yeah,
backyard if you really want it.
yeah,
Okay. So the second thing is not to outsource it and don't make it so difficult. Kind of like I had just said. You don't need to
yeah,
spend thousands of dollars. You don't need to lose 30 pounds. You don't need to have a partner. You don't doesn't it's not on Amazon. You don't need to go buy it. It's literally right there. So don't think that it has to be external when you can create it. Yes, you can find it in some of these things, of course, but
yeah,
it's not the only place it is. So really learn where to find it within.
yeah,
And then finally, the last one is lower the bar. I use something called your portfolio of joy. It kind of sounds like your list, Matt. Your list sounds like your portfolio of joy.
yeah,
It's like a toolbox of like, okay, where in my portfolio am I going to find joy today? And my rules for when I'm helping people build this portfolio, which is really just a list, is it has to be easy, it has to be accessible, and it has to
yeah,
be free. Free meaning you already have it, it's already there.
yeah,
So some of mine going for my walk in Cabbagetown, being in nature, it's right over there. Just go
yeah,
for a walk and it's there. It's very easy.
yeah, yeah,
Telling someone I love that I love them for no reason other than to just say, I love you. Thank you for being in my life. That brings
yeah,
me a lot of joy. Um, that feels really good for me. Doing something nice for a stranger, saying good morning, holding the door open, just whatever it is for me brings me a lot of joy. My morning coffee for sure. Watering my plants in the morning. So my thing is I get up, I make my coffee and then I water my plants and I kind of say hello and I see who's new. I see if there's any new little buds coming in. And like that for me is so simple and yet it brings me so much joy.
yeah,
Again, it's all here. I don't need to go anywhere. I can do this in my house. Going for a bike ride. A big one for me, I've said this so many times, is listening to music, getting some of my favorite
mhm,
songs, singing, even though I'm the worst singer you will ever find, but I sing so loud and people who can hear me must hate it. But that brings me so much joy.
good.
Um, Dancing as well, same idea. Yeah, I got a big space here. I can dance around.
Yeah.
So that all these are things that are in my portfolio of joy. So build that, kind of like what Matt has in his phone, build that, literally write it down. Like, what are the things that I can access right now, right here, without going too far? Making a beautiful meal, and for me, putting on my Italian music, my grandparents' old music, from, like, the 50s and 60s. It just reminds me of them, and it just fills me with so much joy.
Oh,
It really, I don't know what it is, but just something innocent. It brings back to my innocent childhood with them around, and that brings me joy. So there's so many. Like, you could fill up this portfolio. As you can see, I'm listing a whole bunch. I'm sure, listener viewer, if you sat down and did this exercise, you would also be able to list a whole lot of things that are not that I like I said, are easy, free, and accessible.
yeah. Yeah, I like that. What's something quirky that brings you joy? Like that
Something
you wouldn't
quirky,
really, yeah,
quirky that brings me joy. Silence, is that quirky?
I wouldn't say
No.
quirky, but it's
Well,
yeah, I guess it would be
I told you that a
inconspicuous.
new bud on my plant. I get so excited. I
Yeah,
will
there
take
you
pictures
go.
of it and, like, send it to my friends. Like, look,
Yeah.
like it's having a baby.
Yeah.
I get
Oh, I
very
love that.
excited about about little new growth on my plants. Is that quirky?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's for sure quirky.
Okay.
Yeah. You said something that made me think of like anticipation. So I think a lot of times people there's no happiness in this moment. There's no joy in this moment. I have to have something planned to
Yeah.
look forward to then therefore I'm going to experience joy in that future moment.
A vacation. People.
Yeah, like exactly,
Yeah.
right? So that's how we're so conditioned as human beings when it's like, no, like there's joy in this moment, there's happiness in this moment. So
Yeah.
I think it's if we can start to just cultivate, and that's the joy from within. If we're so fixated on finding joy outside of ourselves, having to buy clothes, trips, all this sort of stuff in order to find joy, there's always joy is always out of reach.
Yeah.
It's always in the next moment, not in this moment, right? So how can we find joy in this moment? That's where we can start to bring our attention, and that's where presence really does come into play. That's why meditation, being in the present moment, sitting across from someone and eye gazing with them or just smiling with them, like these are the things that bring joy because they're happening in the present moment. It's in
Yeah.
the here and now that you're experiencing it, right? And so my question to you, do you think joy can be vulnerable?
Yes. Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely. Because I think, especially for men, not just
mhm,
gay men, but men in general, I think that for whatever reason, society, we're socialized to not experience or not express joy. I
yeah,
think we're socialized rather to be very stoic and, like, nothing phases me, and I'm not gonna cry in the sadness, and I'm not gonna laugh and celebrate and
yeah,
let loose in the lightheartedness of life.
yeah,
I see that a lot with men, especially men of a certain generation. Um,
yeah,
and so, yes, I think it can be very vulnerable to say or to admit, like, oh my gosh, I'm having fun. I'm happy. Like, this is good. This feels good to me.
yeah,
I think for a lot of guys, it is a very vulnerable thing to admit. I'm using air quotes because it's silly to say that, but to
yeah.
admit feeling joyful. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It is very vulnerable for me too. When was the last time that you had a joy or a laugh attack where like you had belly laugh where your face was hurting and
This
like
this,
the
this
back of your
week,
head muscles were hurting?
this
When
week I
was
was on a call with a client, actually, in a session, and we were laughing. We were laughing at our inner critic. And it was so great. We
Nice.
had a really good laugh. I made this was in my weekly newsletter today. We were I asked him to, like, describe his inner critic for me, like, what does it look like and all these things. And he described it, and he kept going, and it was so funny because, like, I totally got it. And he was eventually we started describing it, but he turned into, like, kind of ridiculing him and making fun of him. And
Yeah.
we had the greatest belly laugh about something that you wouldn't
Mm.
think would be funny. And
Yeah.
it's in those moments, like, who would have thought that I would have got on this call talking about, like, inner critic and shame, and we had this hilarious laugh. And that right there is a joyful moment, like, that I got to share that with a client, and it was really fun.
That is so nice. So healing too. I love laughter. Laughter is a big part of joy for me. And I love watching people laugh. Um, Especially men. I love watching
Yes.
men laugh because it's like, especially if they have like a belly laugh and they're losing control
Yeah.
of their stoicness, and it's just
Yeah.
so cute.
That's so vulnerable. That's vulnerability right there.
Yeah,
Losing control of that stoicness.
yeah, yeah. It's adorable. Okay, what advice do I have for you guys to find more joy in your life? So challenge your ego. I think that's a big one, challenging the ego, because there's often times the ego is the thing that the ego is the part of us that's and the is the inner critic really. The ego is an aspect of the inner critic, and the inner critic is the part that's looking around for everything that's not working, right? And looking for how, everyone's against us and poor us and all this shit is all ego crap. So if you can learn how to challenge your own ego and get out of your own way, then you're going to be more likely to be able to say, you know what, ego, check yourself, get in the corner. I'm going to let go right now and I'm going to have some fun.
Yeah.
I'm going to focus on what's going well in my life, right? That's a big piece of it. Uh, and I know this one all too well, but grief, like grief is such a big one. And that was all of our topics last month. It's just so important to grieve because unprocessed grief is sorrow, and I think sorrow is the opposite of joy, right? So if we haven't processed our childhood or the things that we've experienced in life, our heartbreaks, and we have this heaviness in our system, in our bodies, then it's gonna be really hard to feel the lightness of joy in our body, and it's gonna feel like we're trying to always grab on to joy as an intellectual concept. I'll think positive thoughts and then I'll feel joy. Well, it doesn't really work that way, right? It can work that way, but oftentimes when we have a bunch of unprocessed crap in our system, we need to feel it. We need to learn how to feel grief so we can therefore then feel more joy. So I would say those are the two things that are like more on the pain point side. And as far as like solutions or things you can move towards, a gratitude practice, daily gratitude practice where you're not just playing around with gratitude as an intellectual concept. You're playing with it as an embodied concept. So you use the intellect to then therefore drop down into the body and feel gratitude, not just think gratitude. I think that's a big, big differentiation between the two. Because when
Mhm.
you start to cultivate gratitude from a felt sense, it starts to actually grow inside the body and you can start to feel it more and you can have access to it more. So I think that's a big one. Um, play. Play is so important. What brings you joy in the sense of play? I think that you look at, I have a nephew who's 6 years old and he's just always playing and he's just full of joy. And the times that he's not in joy is when he has to come in from outside because he can't play because he has to eat, right? So when he's playing, he's just in pure joy. So what can you do that's going to bring you into more play? I think is a big piece of it. And then giving yourself permission to feel joy without guilt or apprehensiveness that the joy is going to be taken away from you and you're going to feel disappointed. Just give yourself permission to say, you know what, today I'm going to feel joy. Set the intention for joy in your life. And I think that's going to allow you to, again, bring that focus towards joy. And then when you're focusing on something, you're more likely to attract it. So, yeah.
Well said. And if I may,
Yeah.
I have a story about, well, two of them, but I'll stick with one about play. I love that. I love that you mentioned
Okay.
it. That's definitely another one I would add to that to my previous answer about how I want to or how I've learned to uh, tap into more joy as I into the next chapter of my life is
Mhm.
making play a priority. Or as I think in our culture, in the Western culture, play is something you do as a kid, and then you get old, and then no one has time for that. That's child's play.
Yeah.
But I think play in the adult sense is something that I've learned to prioritize and reconnect with. As in for me, a lot of the stuff that I play in are the very same things I would have played in as a kid, as that 6-year-old boy.
Yeah.
So my story is I was at the cottage recently this summer, and we had a lot of fallen sticks from ice storm we had in the winter, and
Okay.
we have a big fire pit by the lake. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna just go gather all these dead dry sticks that have kind of fallen all over the place and go put them in the fire and burn them, thinking, okay, this is something I'm gonna do. It's a nice thing to do. 5 minutes in, I felt like a little kid, like, oh, let's find this stick and let's burn this stick. And then, like, I started adding them to the fire and then burning it. And like, well, let's go get more and let's go get more. And I was having so much fun playing outside, my hands all dirty, gathering sticks to burn in a fire pit. That
Mm,
I can't not tell you how, like, just happy and joyful that was for me. And it was
I
like
love
the
it.
simplest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's adorable. We would be best little buddies. I
I
would have
know.
been
Yeah, I know.
right there with you finding
Yeah.
sticks.
I know that's why I wanted to mention it. But yeah, play. It's not something small or insignificant as adults. In fact, I think it's more important, especially in the world we live in when we get so caught up in our productivity and to do and responsibility and duty.
Yeah.
Making play a priority is such a great response to that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, the last thing I'll add is acts of kindness.
Mhm.
Share yourself, share the things you have, um, give compliments to people, make someone smile. These sorts of things, because I really do believe that joy is contagious, it's infectious. And when we create joy in another person, we feel it as well. We're all connected. And so, yeah, share your joy. Share your
Amen.
joy. Hmm. Any closing thoughts from you?
No, I think we covered a lot of ground here. Yeah, joy isn't something we necessarily have to find, although we can. But I really want to underline the fact that it's not about chasing extraordinary things in your life. It's really about just seeing the ordinary right in front of you.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. And just even saying, I welcome more joy into my life, or I welcome joy into my life today,
Yeah,
right? Like that's a perfect sentence or a mantra
yeah,
for setting an intention for it. Welcome it in, right? And
yeah.
just see what happens. It's
That
pretty amazing.
that's the challenge for the listener right now. Wherever you are, wherever you're watching this or listening to this, look around you. Look around and find
Yeah,
those joyful things right in front of you.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right. Well, thank you, Michael, for sharing all your wisdom and coming on and doing our thing.
Yeah.
Thank you to the listener viewer for tuning in to yet another episode of Gay Men Going Deeper. Again, just a reminder, this podcast and YouTube channel are listener and viewer supported. So if you want to make a donation, you can hit the thanks button on YouTube, and you can go to a link in the show notes, and you can go to early access option on Apple. And those three things help support the community. Hopefully, we'll see you at one of our circles, connection circle or sharing circle. And for everything GMB, go to gaymensbrotherhood.com. Much love, everybody.